Welcome back to the briefing. This is Daily Pressure Report USA at Pressure Report USA. I'm your host, and today we are walking through a timeline that quite literally changes the map. If you are new here, do us a favor right now. Just hit subscribe, like, and share this report. We really need to keep the signal strong, especially, given the absolute chaos we are tracking today.
Let's just get right into the pressure points.
Yeah.
Because what we are seeing right now, this isn't just another headline. This is a structural shift. I've been looking at the data coming out of Tehran for 20 years, and frankly, what I'm seeing on the monitors today, it's shocking.
Yeah, we are going to unpack all of that. But first, I want to take you back just a few days. January 14th, the day Iran went dark. And I want you to really picture this, because the data alone, it doesn't do it justice. We're looking at a situation where Iranian aviation authorities suddenly, with no warning, issued an emergency order. They grounded commercial jets mid-flight. Just imagine that. You're in the air, maybe flying from Dubai to Tehran, and suddenly the pilot just banks hard, and you are forced down.
And all the international carriers too, right? Lufthansa, Emirates.
Turned away, right at the border. The visual here is just staggering. An entire nation, a country of 88 million people, effectively sealing its skies, instantly.
It's the kind of thing you usually only see in, disaster movies.
Right.
Or in the very first hours of a total war. When a nation locks its doors like that, it just signals panic. Absolute, unadulterated panic at the highest levels of government.
Yeah.
And it raises the big question immediately. Why?
Yeah.
Why does a nation of that size, a regional superpower, just turn off the lights and lock the gates?
Exactly. And that is the mystery we are really trying to solve today. Who is actually in control here? Is it the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who reports suggest is, hiding in a bunker? Or is it the people on the street? Because the timeline of what happened in those specific 24 hours on January 14th, it changes everything we thought we knew about the stability of the Middle East. Stay with us, because we are going to break this down pretty much hour by hour.
But to understand the 14th, though, we have to look at the setup. This didn't just happen in a vacuum.
No, of course not.
You can't just look at the explosion. You have to look at the fuse, right? If you rewind just a few weeks to late December, early January, the economic indicators in Iran were already, they were flashing red. And I don't just mean recession red. I mean catastrophic system failure levels of red.
Right. The economy was in free fall. But let's get specific, because inflation is a word we throw around a lot here in the U.S. What does that actually look like on the ground in, say, Tehran or Isfahan?
Yeah.
We aren't talking about eggs going up 50 cents.
No, not at all. To really get why the 14th happened, you have to ignore the politics for a second and just look at the kitchen table. We tracked the price of basic staples, rice, cooking oil, chicken from December 20th to January 10th.
Okay.
It wasn't just inflation. It was hyperinflationary spikes. We're talking about the price of baby formula jumping 300% in a single Tuesday afternoon.
300% in an afternoon.
Yes.
That's not economics. That's panic.
It is. It's a humanitarian crisis masquerading as an economic statistic. So when we say protests began, don't picture students with placards shouting slogans about democracy.
Right.
Picture a father in Shiraz who goes to buy milk, realizes his entire monthly pension can't even cover it, and just snaps. That's the energy that fueled this. It wasn't organized. It was spontaneous combustion.
That's such a key distinction, because when the bazaar merchants, the traditionally conservative backbone of their economy, when they turn on the regime, it's serious. And the response from the regime was just brutal. We are talking martial law, machine gun fire into crowds, and then the digital blackout. They cut the internet for the entire country for over a week.
Which is a desperate move. And we need to talk about what cutting the internet actually means in 2026.
Yeah.
It's not just stopping people from scrolling Instagram. It shuts down banking. It shuts down logistics for food delivery. It shuts down hospitals trying to communicate patient data.
It costs them billions to do that. We'll get to that number later, I'm sure.
We will. But they did it to hide the scale of the crackdown. But here is where the timeline gets really intense.
Yeah.
January 2nd to January 13th, the escalation phase.
This is where the U.S. enters the chat, so to speak.
Right.
On January 2nd, President Trump didn't use back channels. He didn't send a diplomat to Geneva for a quiet cocktail. He went straight to social media. He warned the regime directly. If you continue this violence against protesters, America will respond militarily.
And that is a massive departure from previous administrations, a huge one. If you look back at 2009, during the Green Movement, the U.S. administration was very, very cautious.
Oh, they were silent.
Totally silent, hoping to preserve a chance for a nuclear deal later. They didn't want to be seen as meddling. Trump took the exact opposite approach. He put it all out there in public. He essentially drew a red line on X, formerly Twitter.
And he backed it up. This wasn't just a tweet. The USS Abraham Lincoln Battle Group, we were talking destroyers, attack submarines, carrier-based fighter jets received orders to abandon their patrol in the South China Sea. They were told to steam toward Iranian waters at maximum speed.
And that's a lot of firepower. A carrier strike group is, it's a floating fortress. It has enough power to level a small country.
Sure.
Moving that asset is not a subtle signal, and it takes days to move a group like that. So every mile gets closer, the pressure on the radar screens in Tehran just ticks up and up.
But the real signal, the one that I think actually terrified the leadership in Tehran, wasn't the boat.
No.
It was what happened at the airbase. The U.S. State Department began evacuating personnel from Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar.
That is the crucial detail. That's the tell.
Yeah.
If you are the Iranian intelligence services watching this, and you see the Americans moving their non-combat personnel, the contractors, the administrative staff, out of the main air hub in the region, that says one thing.
They're clearing the decks.
They're clearing the decks for actual conflict. They aren't bluffing. They're preparing for incoming fire. They expect missiles to fly.
And that leads us to the climax, January 14th. Panic in Tehran. We have reports placing Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei not in his palace, not in a mosque leading prayers, but in a fortified bunker northeast of Tehran with his entire family.
He's gone to ground. And remember, he has done this before when he felt threatened, like after the strikes back in June.
Yeah.
But this feels different. The intelligence reports we are seeing describe him as communicating via hand-delivered notes.
Hand-delivered notes? You're kidding. Like carrier pigeons.
Basically. He's terrified of electronic signals giving away his position for a targeted strike.
Wow.
He thinks if he uses a phone or a radio, a U.S. missile will ride that beam right down onto his head. That is the behavior of a fugitive, not a head of state.
So the airspace closes, the country is locked down,
Right.
And then the blink?
The capitulation, yeah. It was a diplomatic scramble. You had Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, Egypt, all of them rushing to intervene.
They don't want a war in their backyard.
Of course not. They know that if missiles start flying, their oil refineries are the first to burn. And the result was that the Iranian leadership, they folded, they agreed to restrain security forces, they promised no executions of the detained protesters.
They gave in.
They basically did whatever they had to do to stop that carrier group from launching strikes.
But here's the twist, and this is the part that I think is brilliant in a very ruthless, Machiavellian way. As soon as the immediate threat of airstrikes subsided, the economic hammer dropped. Trump announced new sanctions and a 25% tariff on anyone trading with Iran.
It's the old maximum pressure strategy, but on steroids. It's a classic bait and switch. The military threat got their attention, got them to stop the immediate escalation, but then the U.S. pivoted to economic warfare, the kind designed to break the spine of the regime permanently.
Okay, so we have the narrative, we know the story. But to really understand the scale of this, we need to look at the data. We have pulled out the 5 numbers that actually matter here, and I don't want to just list them. I want to understand what they actually mean on the ground. Let's start with the geography of this. The number is 187 cities.
187. That is the number of cities where protests erupted simultaneously.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to push back on this a little. We've seen protests before, 2009, 2019. Why is this different? Usually it's just Tehran, maybe a few other spots.
It comes down to the demographics and the geography. In 2009, it was the Green Movement, right? Mostly urban, middle class, concentrated in North Tehran.
Right. It was the elites fighting the elites.
Exactly. But look at the map from last week. We have confirmed reports of unrest in 187 different cities. That includes the Deep South, the rural East.
So what does that number really mean? 187, that sounds like everything.
It is everything, but the key is where. These are just the liberal college towns. We are seeing open rebellion in Qom and Mashhad.
Wait. Qom, that's the religious heartland. That's where the mullahs are trained.
That's the regime's backyard.
Yeah.
And that is exactly why the supreme leader is panicking. When you lose Qom, you haven't just lost the liberals. You've lost the faithful. You've lost the people who are supposed to be your base. When the children of the clerics are burning hijabs in Qom, the ideology is dead.
That brings us to the second number, and this is a grim one, the death toll. We have a discrepancy here. The confirmed deaths are at 2,430, but some reports suggest as high as 12,000 deaths.
Yes, and specifically, 12,000 killed in a single 48-hour period. January 8th and 9th.
I have to stop you there. 12,000 people in 2 days.
In 2 days.
How is that even possible? How do they hide that? That number seems just incredibly high compared to previous crackdowns.
I was skeptical, too. It sounds impossible. But look at the satellite imagery we reviewed of the cemeteries outside Avaz and Kurdistan provinces from January 9th.
What do they show?
We are seeing mass excavation, long trenches. And remember, they cut the internet for a reason. You don't black out a country and lose $1 billion a day just to hide a few hundred arrests.
Right.
You do it to hide something industrial in scale.
So you're suggesting the blackout was basically a cover for a purge?
I'm saying the logistics required to kill and bury 12,000 people required darkness. They didn't want videos of machine guns mowing down crowds to get out until the bodies were already in the ground. It's a massacre, not crowd control.
Which leads right into the third number, 18,000 arrests.
And that's a conservative estimate. The context here is purely logistical. Where do you put 18,000 people?
I mean, the prison system, Evan Prison, the famous ones, they have to be overflowing.
They're already beyond capacity.
So where are they going?
We're hearing reports of soccer stadiums being commandeered, warehouses, makeshift camps out in the desert. It's a logistical nightmare for the regime.
Yeah.
And think about the social cost. Every single person arrested has a mother, a father, a brother, a cousin.
Yeah.
If you arrest 18,000 people, you create 100,000 enemies who now have a personal vendetta against the state. You are just radicalizing the population further.
Let's talk about the cost of that silence. Number 4 is a financial one. $1 billion.
$1 billion. That is the estimated daily cost of the internet blackout to the Iranian economy.
So just to be clear, what does that number really mean? In their effort to silence the people, the government is bankrupting itself faster.
It's a self-inflicted wound. It's suicide. I mean, imagine shutting down the internet in New York City.
Right.
No credit cards work, no Uber, no Amazon delivery logistics, no banking transfers. In an economy that is already collapsing, where the real is basically toilet paper, losing $1 billion a day is just accelerating the very collapse they're trying to stop.
And finally, number 5, this is the external pressure, 25%.
The new tariff rate.
Yeah.
And Trump announced this for any nation trading with Iran. China, India, Brazil, Turkey, anyone.
So this forces Iran's partners to choose. It's an ultimatum.
It's a binary choice. A brutal one. You can have access to the U.S. market, the biggest consumer economy in the world, or you can have the Iranian market.
You can't have both.
You cannot have both.
And for a country like China or India, is that even a hard choice to make?
The math is incredibly simple. The Iranian market is tiny compared to the U.S. China might bluster, India might complain, but at the end of the day, business is business. They will walk away. They'll stop buying Iranian oil. They'll stop sending parts for Iranian factories. This isolates Iran completely. It turns them into an island.
So those are the numbers, but I want to get into the why. Why is this happening now? We've seen protests in Iran before. We saw it 2009. We saw 2019. Why does this feel terminal?
Yeah.
Why does this feel like the end of the line?
I think there are 3 main drivers here, and they're all converging at once.
Yeah.
It's a perfect storm. Driver number 1 is just pure economic desperation. We touched on this, but it's the root cause of everything. Inflation has destroyed savings. The real, the currency, has collapsed to unprecedented lows.
So people aren't protesting for politics, really. They are protesting because they literally can't eat.
That's it. That is the bottom line. When you have a shopkeeper who sees the price of groceries triple in a single week, politics goes out the window.
Sure.
It becomes about survival. You can suppress an idea. It's very hard to suppress hunger. When a father looks at his children and knows he can't feed them, he loses his fear of the bullet. That is what the regime is facing, a population that has nothing left to lose.
And then you have driver number 2, geopolitical isolation.
This is a huge factor. For decades, Iran relied on its ring of fire. It had proxies everywhere, Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Assad in Syria.
That was their forward defense.
It was. They fought their wars in other people's capitals so they didn't have to fight them in Tehran.
And now?
Gone.
Oh.
Or severely degraded. Israel dismantled Hamas and Hezbollah effectively over the last year. Their leadership structures are decimated. And the big one, Syria's Assad, fell and fled to Moscow in December.
That was the linchpin, wasn't it?
It was the land bridge. Iran lost its physical connection to the Mediterranean. They can't just truck weapons to Hezbollah anymore. They are naked regionally. The buffer zone is gone. The war is now on their borders.
Okay, but what's the root cause here? I mean, isn't the regime still strong at home? They have the Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, they have the besieged militia, they have the guns. Why can't they just shoot their way out of this like they always do?
They have the guns, sure. But the internal power grid is failing. The leadership is described in multiple reports as rudderless. Khamenei is old, he's sick, he's in a bunker. We are hearing reports that he is restructuring the entire the command-firing generals, moving units because he's afraid of a coup.
That just smells like fear.
It's paranoia. If you trust your generals, you let them fight. If you're shuffling them around in the middle of a crisis like this, it means you think one of them is coming for your job.
Which brings us to driver number 3, the maximum pressure strategy. It's the combination. The credible military threat, that carrier group, got their attention, it forced them to freeze. But the economic strangulation, that's what breaks them. The U.S. is essentially squeezing the oxygen out of the room while pointing a loaded gun at the door. That's the pressure point.
Let's talk about the people. Because in all these geopolitical chess moves and all this talk of aircraft carriers and tariffs, there are real people just getting crushed. Who gets hit the hardest here?
It's the Iranian middle class, the educated professionals, the teachers, the engineers, the small business owners. These are people who are being, to use a phrase from one of the reports, economically annihilated.
Can you give us an example? What does that actually look like for, a family?
Yeah, of course. Picture a person. Let's say a shopkeeper who survived years of sanctions. He runs a small electronics store in Tehran, sells mobile phones, laptops. He's not political. He just wants to make a living.
Right.
But suddenly his supply chain is cut because of the tariffs. He can't get parts from Dubai or China anymore. His customers have no money because of inflation. So his business just stops.
Completely. And then he goes to the supermarket. The price of chicken has tripled since Tuesday. He goes out to the street to vent his frustration, just standing on a corner, and he sees his neighbor, maybe a kid he watched grow up, get shot in the face by a security officer on a motorbike.
Oh, wow.
Farhad runs home, terrified. He tries to go online to tell the world what he saw, to send a message to his brother in Europe. And the internet is dead. He is trapped. He is broke. He is terrified. And he has no way to call for help. That is the reality for millions of people right now.
It's just heartbreaking. And it's not just inside Iran, right? I mean, the ripple effects have to be hitting global partners, too.
Absolutely. If you are a manufacturer in Brazil or India who relies on Iranian oil or exports goods to Tehran, you are now in the crosshairs of that 25% tariff. Supply chains are going to break. It forces a global realignment. The U.S. is basically saying to the world, you are either with us or you are with them. Choose now.
So what comes next? I mean, this is an incredibly volatile situation. We've identified 3 potential scenarios. Let's walk through them. Scenario 1, regime collapse. The hinge point.
This is what many analysts are looking at. We might be witnessing the death throes of a 40-year regime. The signal to watch here is the military. Does the chain of command fracture? We know Khamenei has designated 3 potential replacements and restructured his command because he fears assassination or a coup.
So what does that collapse actually look like? Is it a civil war?
It starts with a refusal of orders. If a commander in the army tells his troops to fire on a crowd in their own hometown and the troops say no, or worse, they turn their guns on the commander, that's the end. Once the monopoly on violence cracks, the regime falls in days.
Okay, then there's scenario 2, the North Korea model. This is the worst case scenario.
This is where the regime survives, but at a terrible cost. They turn the country into a total prison camp. The total information blackout continues indefinitely. Mass executions happen in secret, despite their promises.
So they just isolate completely.
They accept total isolation just to stay in power. They become a hermit kingdom, armed with nuclear capability, but cut off from the human race.
And scenario 3, a controlled transition.
This is the tricky one. Does the U.S. maintain the naval pressure? Or do they pull back now that the airspace is open again? If the U.S. keeps that carrier there and keeps the tariffs on, it might force a transition of power from within. Maybe the military pushes the clergy aside to save the country. A military dictatorship replacing a theocracy.
Not democracy, but perhaps more stable.
Perhaps.
So what is the very first thing people should watch for? If our listeners wake up tomorrow and check their phones, what's the key indicator?
2 things. First, watch the U.S. Navy's position in the Gulf. Do they stay parked off the coast? If they stay, the pressure is still on. And second, watch the internet. Does it come back on?
Why is the internet the key?
Because if the internet stays off, it means the killing is continuing. It means they're still cleaning house.
Right.
If the internet comes back, it means they feel secure enough to let people talk again. The light switch is the signal.
Let's recap this before we let you go. Iran closed its skies in panic on January 14th. The U.S. Navy, specifically the Lincoln Battle Group, forced them to blink. Now the economy is being suffocated by new 25% tariffs, and the people are still in the streets despite thousands dead, potentially, as you said, up to 12,000. This is far from over.
It is a historic inflection point. We're watching a nation try to break free in real time, and the cost is being paid in blood.
We want to hear from you. We have 2 questions for the comments section today. Number 1, where are you watching from? And if gas prices move on this news in your area, let us know what you see locally. We want that data from the ground.
And number 2, do you think the regime falls in the next 6 months, or do they crush this uprising like they did in 2009? Tell us why. We read every single comment.
Make sure you subscribe to Daily Pressure Report USA. Share this deep dive with friends who need to understand what is happening right now. We'll keep tracking the numbers.
And just a quick note, since we discussed potential refugee movements and migration implicitly in this report, this is not legal advice.
Thanks for listening. Stay safe and keep your eyes open.
Stay informed.
We'll see you in the next briefing.